They say New York was built on dreams. But the truth is, it was built on belief. Before it was the city that never sleeps, it was nothing but a cold, swampy edge of the world, a fog-covered harbor where the wind screamed louder than the people who dared to settle there. The land itself seemed to reject the idea of greatness. Yet somehow it became the capital of the modern world, not because of luck, not because of geography, but because of something invisible, belief that was stronger than fear, belief that could turn chaos into rhythm. New York didn't rise by accident, it was summoned. Summoned by minds who refused to accept the limits of their time, who looked at mud and saw marble, who stood inside emptiness and declared, "This is where the world begins." Beneath the noise of its streets and the shine of its glass towers lies a code, an invisible geometry of symbols and psychology, from the Statue of Liberty's torch to the rigid grid of its streets. New York was engineered to send messages, not only to the eyes but to the subconscious. The torch was never just fire. It was illumination, the human promise to never live in darkness again. The street grid was not random, it was order imposed upon chaos, the visual structure of discipline and ambition. And Wall Street, that narrow canyon of stone and steel, became the global altar of desire. Every city needs a language, but New York's language is power. Every street corner whispers, dream bigger, move faster, rise higher. The city was never built on stone. It was built on psychology. Every immigrant who stepped off a ship carried a belief that a better life was not only possible, but deserved. That belief shaped actions. Those actions shaped systems. Those systems built skyscrapers. In that way, belief became architecture. Even when poverty ruled the streets, there was something sacred about the chaos, a strange order hiding inside the noise. It's why the skyline grew upward, not outward. The city wasn't expanding. It was ascending, as if trying to touch heaven itself. But no belief stays pure forever. As New York grew, so did its shadows. Power began to move behind curtains, in financial rooms, political networks, and secret gatherings where the city's future was decided. The same energy that built dreams now built systems to control them. The financial markets, the media empires, the endless circulation of money, all of it ran on one invisible fuel: trust. Every crash, every rise, every skyscraper followed the same pattern. Belief creates value. Fear destroys it. New York's true economy was never made of dollars or steel. It was made of emotion. Money was merely faith turned into numbers. Every empire faces collapse, and New York was no different. It fell many times, through the Great Depression, through wars, through the smoke of 9/11. Yet every time it fell, it rose again. Not because it forgot the pain, but because it turned the pain into purpose. Each tragedy forced the city to confront its reflection, its arrogance, its vulnerability, its humanity. But what defines New York isn't tragedy, it's resurrection. The people who live there understand something: ancient belief doesn't die with buildings. It survives through the ones who rebuild. Every fall became fuel. Every loss became a vow. We will rebuild higher, brighter, stronger. That's not just courage. That's faith. Look closely at the skyline. It's not random. It forms a rhythm, a pattern, a code. From the Empire State Building to One World Trade, the architecture mirrors the human condition, the desire to rise above gravity, both physical and emotional. It's not just engineering, it's psychology made visible. Every tower stands as a declaration: rise, no matter how heavy the weight. New York teaches the world that ambition can be sacred, that reaching upward is not arrogance, it's the most human instinct of all. Yet, every belief has its shadow. The same psychology that builds empires can also blind them. In chasing greatness, New York became addicted to control. It engineered systems so efficient, so consuming, that its people began to measure their worth not in peace, but in motion. The city that promised freedom became a place that demanded performance. The paradox of New York is simple: the freer you seem, the more you're owned by what you chase. Its skyline glitters like a crown, but it's also a reminder. Even light can become a cage if you never stop chasing it. Then came a new age, the digital era. The skyscrapers stayed, but their meaning changed. The belief that once lived in steel and concrete moved into data and code. The towers became servers, the lights became screens, and the heartbeat of the city shifted from Wall Street to the algorithm. But the psychology remained the same. People still believed in the same invisible system. Work harder, post more, achieve more, prove more. The dream just moved from the skyline to the timeline. And yet, behind every like, every share, every digital success story, the same human hunger whispers, I want to matter. The hidden truth behind New York isn't power. It's transformation. The city doesn't just grow, it evolves. It absorbs every culture, every pain, every possibility, and turns it into identity. That's why it belongs to everyone and no one. The true magic of New York is not what it builds, but what it believes. It teaches that chaos can be turned into order, that failure can be turned into fuel, that belief can become matter. Every person who walks through those streets joins an ancient experiment. Can a single mind rewrite reality? New York's answer has always been yes. People often think they shape the city, but in truth, the city shapes them. Its energy gets under your skin. You start walking faster, thinking louder, dreaming harder. The skyline begins to feel like a mirror, a reflection of what you want and what you fear. The question becomes, are you ready to match its rhythm? Because in New York, you don't just live, you perform. You compete with the air itself. The city doesn't demand perfection. It demands persistence. It teaches you to keep moving even when no one's watching. And somehow, in that chaos, you discover who you really are. There's also something unexplainable about New York. An energy that hums through every block, every night, every face. Scientists call it resonance, but those who've lived there call it spirit. It's the vibration of millions of dreams colliding, merging, echoing. That's why art feels different there. That's why every idea, no matter how small, can turn into a movement. The city doesn't just host ambition, it amplifies it. It's like a tuning fork for human willpower. If your dream survives New York, it can survive anywhere. Because it has learned to vibrate at the city's frequency. Yet with all its promises of freedom, New York carries an illusion. It tells you that you can be anyone, but it quietly demands that you become someone specific. To rise, you must obey its rhythm. To belong, you must adapt to its pulse. That's the paradox of freedom. In chasing it, you often surrender control. The city doesn't trap you with fences, it traps you with desire. Every glowing billboard whispers, be more. Every success story reminds you that you're not enough yet, and so millions run faster, not realizing that the chase itself is the trap. But the true soul of New York isn't in its billionaires or its towers. It's in the invisible hands that built it. The immigrants, the workers, the dreamers who never got their names written in gold. They carried stones, they laid bricks. They gave their lives to an idea bigger than themselves. These are the unseen architects of faith. Without them, there would be no skyline, no symbol, no story. Their belief was pure, not in power but in possibility. And that's the heart of New York. It's not the city of wealth, it's the city of becoming. Now, as the world moves into a new era of machines, New York faces another transformation. Its future won't be written in steel and glass, but in algorithms and light. AI automation and silence will replace noise and struggle. But the question remains, what happens when machines start to believe for us? What happens when the city's pulse becomes digital? Maybe the next revolution won't happen in Wall Street or Times Square, but in the quiet mind of someone watching this. A new dreamer ready to believe differently. Because every generation must decide what it wants to create and what it's willing to believe in. New York was never just a place. It's an experiment in human will. It was never about geography, it was about psychology. It's a city that exists because people refuse to stop dreaming. Every light, every shadow, every heartbeat of its streets is a reminder the world doesn't move by logic. It moves by belief, and belief, when shared, becomes real. In the end, New York is not the city that never sleeps. It's the city that never stops believing. It's a mirror of us all, our fears, our greed, our beauty, our endless will to rise again. And maybe that's the final secret. The city doesn't make people great. People make the city believe. Because cities don't rise from the ground. They rise from faith, from failure, from fire, and from the unshakable human need to prove that what we imagine can become true.